everyone. Are you all able to hear me? I'm very sorry for the delay and extremely sorry. Let's begin the lecture. Um, okay, so please everybody welcome here to my lecture, and I'm very much thankful to Pragati Ma'am, Tarun sir, and the Bhatter College too. Good afternoon, sir. Let's begin the session. Good morning and good afternoon to one and all. So today Neha Kumari. I'm a research scholar. So I'll present before you the lecture on Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart. Chinua Achebe is a very much influential African writer of his generation, and there are very few works in English literature which is which is very much applauded and see very much attention abroad. Among them is Chinua Achebe's novel Things Fall Apart. It is widely read in Africa as well as abroad. It has been translated in more than 60 languages, and it has been sold about 9 lakh copies. So Achebe has wrote different short stories, novels, poetry, and to some extent critical essays. Achebe has written 5 novels. Before dealing with Things Fall Apart, I'll I'll like to discuss several other things too. But first of all, let us come to know that what are the novels that he has written. First novel is Things Fall Apart, which was written in 1958. Second is No Longer at Ease, which is written in 1960. Things Fall Apart was written in 1958, just 2 years before the independence. And people, if you are able to hear me, then it's good. If you are not able to hear me, then please you may point it out in the comment box. I hope that everybody will be able to hear me right now. So, Chinua Achebe has written Things Fall Apart just 2 years before the independence African got from European or British civilization. The second is No Longer at Ease. It is also a sequel to Things Fall Apart, which was written in 1960. The third novel is Arrow of the God, which is written in 1964. The other novel is A Man of the People, written in 1966. After writing A Man of the People, Achebe wrote Anethers of Savannah, which was a gap of 20 years. Anethers of Savannah, 1987. Things Fall Apart was set in Things Fall Apart was set in 1890, which was during the days of colonialism, and Chinua Achebe depicts Igbo society in transition. Let me tell you the name of Igbo society, IGBO. This society is a tribe, is an African tribe, and from its first contact, the British colonialist, to the growing dominance of British rule over the indigenous people. We are referring indigenous here to the Africans. Dear viewers, before discussing the Things Fall Apart in brief, will too like to have some other discussions which is really very important. The first is we'll go to the representation of Africa. Second, we'll deal with Heart of Darkness, as Heart of Darkness is one of the very influential novella that has helped in a state, Chinua Achebe, to write his novels. And this Heart of Darkness has pinched one Chinua Achebe because because he was very much detracted the thing that why Conrad Heart of Darkness has only stated the black side of Africa, savages, cannibals, and different only the negativity that is being shown in Heart of Darkness. So the third part we will do is with the role of a writer, Achebe is as a role of writer, and even what Achebe thinks should be a role of a writer. Achebe's worldview, what is his worldview? And novel, before discussing the novel, we will see the characters of the novel, and then we'll go to the plot of the novel. In the seventh part, we'll go to the structure of the novel, and then we'll finish it with the themes. So, dear viewers, let's begin with representation of Africa. So, European discovered Africa in the 15th century. Soon after that, started the transatlantic slave trade. So I'll spell the transatlantic slave trade for you. Transatlantic, Transatlantic, Transatlantic. Transatlantic slave trade is a slave trade that was done. It was a business of export and import of slaves, and these slaves were taken from Africa, and they were put to slavery by the countries like America, British colonies, and other colonies of Portuguese too, and Danish even. And let me tell you that in 1870, 1870, 10% of Africa was under the colonial rule. And in 1914, mark it, 1914, 90% of African was colonized, means Africa was colonized 90% in 1914. So one thing that I will tell you, and let even tell you to note it down, that Achebe has always told that it was not the Europeans that has given Africa a name. Africa had its history, had its tradition, and even the Africa was also referred in Shakespearean characters. The plays of Shakespeare like Othello, The Tempest, Africa was referred. And one of the Greek romance that was written by Heliodorus, 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 he wrote Ethiopian history, which was later in 1566 translated by Thomas Underdown. Thomas under Underdowne. So we see that already books have been written. The two writers, Dorothy Hammond, Dorothy, Dorothy, Hammond, and Alta Jablow, Altajablow, they together studied the representation of Africa in Western discourse and published two books. The first was The Africa That Never Was, and second was The Myth of Africa. Viewers, don't worry, because these are the facts and I have to discuss it with you all. So, whenever possible, I will surely give you the testimonials even. So don't worry about it. And the facts has to be told. So I'm sorry that I have to give facts even to you. So The two writers wrote The Africa That Never Was and the second book, The Myth of Africa. And these two writers have showed two myths related to Africa. The first was racial myth, racial, RACIAL, racial myth, and the second was spatial myth, SPATIAL, spatial myth. And you all will be shocked that racial myth was on two grounds: beastly savage and noble savage. Beastly savage, it's okay, but still a savage and that too noble. So beastly savage in Africa was the one that were seen to be simple, primitive, cruel, lazy, arrogant, and they are physically ugly. The one who are beastly savage, and the noble savage, they represent Africans. The noble savages represents Africans as handsome, brave, self-confident, and an object of exaggerated admiration. By this, I just want to tell you that in Things Fall Apart, the character Okonkwo, who is the protagonist, who is the tragic hero, he is a noble savage because he represents himself as a brave, self-confident, and masculine. His traits are masculine, and he is a rigorous person who really hates to feel like women, or hates to have any characteristics of a weak person. Again, moving back from racial myth, uh, coming forward to spatial myth, SPATIAL, which represents Africa as a place. Actually, Africa was a testing ground for the Western characters, which means that if you survive Africa, you can survive in the whole world. So you must be thinking, oh my God, what kind of place it is that it's such a problematic place. So Africa was a testing ground. Africa is represented even as a white man's grave or as a white man paradise. As in white man grave, let me tell you, Africa is a place of infinite misery, physical discomfort, cannibalism, darkness, danger, and hunger. So these are the things. And as in paradise, as a white man's paradise, Africa turns to be the place of natural beauty, which is full of flora and fauna. So these are the things, and we have seen here also that what are the motives and what are the thoughts European people have for Africa. Whenever even I'll ask you that what do you think about Africa? Tell me two or three thoughts of Africa. You all will say cannibalism, slavery, savages, and even you will say dark looks. So there is still going on, and we have to understand the things what actually Chinua Achebe wanted to say in his novel. Achebe's famous essay, An Image of Africa, Racism in Conrad's Heart of Darkness, which was written in 1975, where he stated that Heart of Darkness is representing colonialism in two aspects. One is gross injustice, and the second is long and lasting tradition. And even Heart of Darkness, Conrad has even said about Achebe has said about Conrad that Heart of Darkness deprives Africa of self-representation. How has Conrad deprived Africa of self-representation? It's by denying history and language to African characters, leading Africa to be an object rather than subject. moving ahead, Chinua Achebe assailed Heart of Darkness as racist and called for its elimination from canon of Western classics, because we all know Heart of Darkness of Cornatz is one of the classics in English literature, and Achebe assailed that to be a racist and called for its elimination. He said that this novella has depersonalizes a portion of human race that should not be considered a great work of art. How a novella that has simply shown a human race in a savage life in a very deteriorating form, how the work can be considered as a great work of art. Achebe says that this heart of darkness he referred to as Europeans' greed as they loot and torture the Africans in their search for ivory. Actually, this hatred, the saying that Europeans greed as they loot and torture Africans, this hatred we can see also in various other colonies, like in Indians even, they used to say that British owe reparations to India, but this is the truth. And Europeans have looted and tortured not only Africa but in various parts of the world. They have left themselves to to a tag of being a looter. So, in the Cornard's Heart of Darkness, the character Marlowe, he narrates the story, which is apparently sympathetic to the Africans, to the colonized Africans, but Marlowe in Heart of Darkness is sympathetic to the colonized Africans, but he never takes the account of the Africans who too like Europeans are civilized or mature human beings. Marlowe has never spoke about Africans anything good. He has only sympathized with their plight of being a poor native savage, and he has never questioned the oppressive practices of European in Africa. This was also one of the pinch that had in Achebe's heart, that the Marlowe being sympathetic but did not took any stand. Even Achebe has always said that Africa too has history, and it's not that Europeans have taught them to be civilized and mature. Africa too have civilization. Coming back to the next section, we see Achebe as a role of writer. Actually, Achebe's purpose is didactic. He thinks that he thinks about it's a responsibility of art to educate, to teach. Social responsibility of all art is to teach. And the quote of arts for art's sake is a complete nonsense for him. And Things Fall Apart was a conscious effort to disapprove the colonial image of Africa. And in his famous essay, The Novelist as a Teacher, in Morning, Yet on Creation Day, outlines the agenda that outlines this agenda that teacher as a a novelist should act as a teacher, guide the society, and make them aware and create awareness of the happenings around the society, around the world. So we find it to counter colonial stereotypes of Africa and help the African reader to regain their self-respect. This is what he wants to teach in his things fall apart. He wants to educate the African writers themselves who have internalized Africa being without history, introduce the entire world with African culture and tradition. And Achebe, as I have said before, that he says that Achebe wanted to teach the Europeans that the term civilization was not heard by Africans for the first time from the Europeans. They have it in their culture, they have it in their tradition. Achebe is a very critical insider. Coming to the Achebe's worldview, we understand that Achebe is a critical insider. He says that we feel when we read Achebe work, we feel that he neither follows African tradition blindly nor rejects Western civilization without any reason. And thus, I will also like to say that his motto was all cultures have something or the other to learn from each other. All cultures have good and bad in them, and all cultures should be learned. And in when we go through the Chinua Achebe's novel, Things Fall Apart, we'll see that the narrative style of Achebe is marvelous. He is like it's kind of oral narrative that he prefers. For an example, he just there is plots, there is subplots, and the stories continues. And he never stops the narrator or the protagonist or the characters uh, by interpreting himself in the novel. He just wants the novel to be fluent, and he has always represented the cultures, the Igbo cultures of which he belonged, in a very clear and proper way. So he says that every society has its own pattern and pace of evolution. So he feels that colonialism has I'm sorry, colonialism has interrupted the evolutionary process of African societies and imposed its own values on Africa. This is something that we have seen in India also, in other parts of the colonized country too, that wherever Britishers came, they imposed their laws, they imposed their taxes, and that too in a very brutal way. And that was the thing that Achebe is against. Actually, we all are against, because imposing anything is forcefully is not good. Achebe here adopts a dialogue approach. Achebe is we cannot say that he is against the Western civilization, no, because if he would have been against the Western civilization, he wouldn't have adopted the two means of Western civilization. First of all, to create awareness, to write the story, he took the medium of novel, which was a British medium, which was a colonial medium. And secondly, he even adopted English language to write his novels. So we have seen that it is really his views were very critical and easy to understand even. And the thing is that he is appreciating everything, and he was not rejecting the Western civilization, and neither he was following the African tradition. Dear viewers, now let's go to the part of the characters. Before starting the plot, I will tell you that it is very important to be acquainted with the characters of Things Fall Apart, because some of the because of the spelling, because of the pronunciation, might be you all will not be aware of the characters, and this might help you to understand the plot well. The first character is Okonkwo. I will spell it for you. O Konkwo. Okonkwo. Okonkwo. So, about Okonkwo, he is the protagonist, he is the tragic hero, he is ambitious, he is proud, he is ill tempered, and as an ambitious man, he was an ambitious man who has risen from nothing to a man of importance in his tribe. Okonkwo rules his family with an iron fist, because he thinks that it is very womanly characteristics to think that to even have the affectionate feeling. He is like to be masculine, to be he always wanted the titles, and he was a fearless man. And he actually never wanted to be like his father. Let's come to his father. His father name was Yunoka. He is the second character. Please note down the spelling. Unoka. Unoka. Yunoka. Yunoka is the father of Okonkwo, and he died when Okonkwo was very young. Okonkwo thinks him to be a failure, a complete failure in his life. He thinks that uh, he thinks that he never wants to be like Okonkwo because he was a complete failure. Uh, um, sorry, Okonkwo never wanted to be like his father, Yunoka, because he thinks him to be a complete failure. And Yunoka died in a debt and humiliation. Even he was not given the proper burial because he was affected with a disease, with a skin disease. And so he was thrown in the evil forest without giving a proper burial. And Yunoka, remembering Yunoka, Okonkwo's feel that he is a terrible person. Coming to the third character, Ikmifuna. I'm sorry, but these are the characters you need to learn, and even you need to pronounce, and even you need to hold it in your mind, because this is the way we pronounce Ram, Sita, Gita. The way in the same way, Africa too has Yunoko, Okonko, and Ikmifuna. So Ikmifuna, you must remember because he is also one of the very important character. I'll spell it for you. Ikemefuna. Ikmifuna. Ikmifuna is a young boy who was given to Eumofia. Eumofia is a, let me tell you, Eumofia is a setting. Actually, it's a village. There are two villages that is being depicted in Things Fall Apart. One is Eumofia and the other is Mabanta. Eumofia, I'll spell it for you. Umufia. Umufia. Eumofia and Mabanta. Banta. Mabanta. So Eumofia is this Ikmifuna was given to Eumofia by a neighboring village. Actually, he was the sacrifice to prevent a war. He lives in Eumofia for 3 years with Okonkwo under his guidance and on his roof on with his family. And Okonkwo looks at him as a son, and he is Ikmifuna is killed by the tribe out of the fear that people will think him. Actually, Okonkwo killed Ikmifuna because it was said by the oracles to kill Ikmifuna. So Ekmefuna was killed by Okonkwo, who thinks him to be his son. Now, the actually let's go to his original son, Noy, Nwoy. Noy was the son of Okonkwo. He was very sensitive and thoughtful, like his grandfather. And Okonkwo, who is the father of Noy, has always wanted, has always wanted Noy to be fearless like him. But Noy was very sensitive, thoughtful. He loved stories, listening stories from his mother, from his aunts. So, Noy, in the eyes of in the eyes of Okonkwo, was a weak person because according to him, these are the weak characteristics. And Noy will come in the later part of the novel. He has converted to Christianity. So his betrayal embitters and even outrages his papa Okonkwo. Ezinma is the daughter of Okonkwo, and Okonkwo has always wanted Ezinma to be his son. She was clever and brave, and she seems to understand Okonkwo's mood, but he was not so. He never showed the feeling of affection for Ezinma because in the eyes of Okonkwo, the feeling of affection too is said to be a feeling of weakness. So he wanted to be away from all weaknesses, which remembers him of his father. As Ezinma spelling is Ezinma. So let's get back to the next character. He is Obirika. Obirika, Obierika, is the friend, a dear friend of Okonkwo. He is unlike his friend Okonkwo. He is less misogynistic as Okonkwo, and he loves to avoid unnecessary violence. And after that, we'll come to know about the other two characters, other two missionary characters, Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, Brown, he is a man who's compassionate. He strives to compromise with his clan, and even restrains the excessive and violent zeal of some of the converts, and he eventually falls ill due to overwork and he has to get back to his land. Mr. Brown. He was a white man. And again, we come to the next character, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith was the replacement of Mr. Brown, but he was a kind of neither wise nor compromising. He was very rude and cruel person, and his foolishness brought Christians of Umuofia into direct conflict with the clan. I'm sorry I left Okonkwo's second wife, Ikwefi, who is the mother of Ezinma, Ezinma. She is the most beautiful woman. Actually, Okonkwo has three wives. They all used to live in one compound, and Ikwefi, the wife of Okonkwo, she had 10 children. Of them, only one daughter survived. That is Ezinma, and all the other got killed by some or the other tragedy. Now, I'm sorry I left one thing, that the title of the novel itself has a significance because it is taken by the Irish poet W.B. Yeats from his poem The Second Coming. Actually, it's not that. Don't think that Achinua Achebe was very much fascinated or loved WB eats. It's not that. Actually, Chinua Achebe loved the thing that about the civilization that we see in the poetry of WB Yeats, the Second Coming. So, in that, Yeats have said about the civilization that two things destroy a civilization or disturbs a civilization. One is internal conflict, the other is external conflict. Internal conflict has happened in the village of Yomofa, and thus, with this internal conflict, the external conflict too took place, which led to more colonialism of the place as well as the Africa. So, because W.B. Yeats was very much specific about civilization, and Achino Achebe got much influenced about the thoughts of civilization of W.B. Yeats, W.B. Yeats. So, he took the title of the novel, Things Fall Apart, from his second coming. Coming back to the plot, dear viewers, as a young man, Okonkwo became one of the greatest wrestlers in the clan. Okonkwo values strength and aggression and believes that masculine is the only trait that a man should have, and he fears to be weak. He fears to have a feminine quality. His father, Yunoka. Okonkwo's wealth and status within the tribe has grown. He was one of the wealthy person in the land in Umofia, sorry, Umuofia, and believing that he treats his family with a heavy hand, believing that this is the only emotion worth to show. I have said to you clearly that affection is the characteristics that shows female quality. So he hates to show affection. He hates to show love to his family even, just because he thinks that showing affection will make him weak. Okonkwo in particularly is particularly worried about his eldest son, Noe. Nwoye. We have seen his even him in the characters list, in whom he sees the signs of laziness of his father, Yunoka. And previously also I have said that Noe was Yunoka's resemblance, and that fears Okonkwo. So, moving to the plot again, one day a neighboring clan commits an offense against Umofia. There was an offense that was commenced against Umofia, the village in which Okonkwo with his family lives. To avoid the war, the offending clan, the clan that offended, gives Umofia one virgin and one young boy. The girl got married to the offended parties, became the offended party's new wife, and the boy whose name was Ikmifuna. Ikmifuna, I have discussed about him also. Might be you remember Ikmifuna, Ikemefuna, is to be sacrificed, but not immediately. The girl whom offending clan gave was to get married to a offended party, but the boy has to be sacrificed. So the boy has to leave for did not was not sacrificed immediately. He has to be sacrificed, but later while. So he lives in Umofia for 3 years, and during that time he lives under Okonkwo's roof. He lives in the compound of Okonkwo, treats him as his father, and he becomes like a part of Okonkwo's family. In particular, Noe, the Okonkwo's oldest son, loves Ikmefuna like a brother. Ikmefuna and Noe started building a brotherly and healthy relationship with each other. But eventually, certainly, Oracle calls for the boy's death, and a group of men take Ikmefuna away to kill him in the forest. We have one more character, Izudu. Izudu, Ezeudu. Izudu is the elder clan. He has set Okonko not to participate in the death of Ikmefuna because the boy Ikmefuna calls him father. Ikmefuna calls Okonko his father, and so it is not good for a father to kill his son. So Izudu, who is the elder member of the clan, tells him not to kill Ikmefuna. And when this was really the event was really very disheartening because Okonkwo took Ikmefuna to him, saying that he will now it's a time to go and he will drop him to his village, Ikmefuna's village. Ikmefuna, with a trust, went with him, and later, when he sees that two to three goons are coming and they are trying to kill him, he runs to Okonkwo for help, saying, Father, they are trying to kill me. But what the father did, Okonkwo, even he didn't thought of a single minute that this boy calls him his father. He thinks that no, if I will not kill Ikmefuna, I might think people might think me to be soft-hearted, which is a symbol of weak. No, so he slit the neck of Ikmefuna, and Ikmefuna died. Later, when he went to his house, Okonko went to his house, knowing, after seeing him, his son, after seeing him, understood that Ikmefuna is no more. My father has killed Ikmefuna, and Noi is spiritually broken by this event. Soon, when we get to the other part, soon Izudu, the one who is the eldest member of the clan, passes away, and his funeral celebration draws the entire clan. So people gather to celebrate his funeral. I mean to say, to his burial, obviously. And during the burial, Okonkwo's gun explodes, killing Izudu, the one who died, Izudu's 16-year-old son, and the boy, 16-year-old boy, is killed by Okonkwo's gun in by mistake, but he got killed. Having killed a fellow clansman, Okonkwo has no choice but to flee with the family to the other village because this crime is a female or accidental crime, and they may return to their Umofia, their village, only after 7 years. So this period, because of this incident, killing of 16-year-old boy, led him to exile, and that exile was of 7 years. And during this exile, now here will come to the other setting. The setting was in Mabanta, and he went to Mabanta. Mabanta was Okonkwo's motherland. Okonkwo is welcomed there in Mabanta by his maternal uncle Yochendu, a villager elder. He gives Okonkwo a plot of land on whom to farm and build a compound for his family. But Okonkwo is very much depressed because he longs for the titles that he has. He longs to return to his Umofia, to return to his place. Actually, this this place, we have seen Africa till now, even we have seen um, Okonkwo to be brave. This is Africa to be like ours, to be a patriarchal society. But here, Uchendu, when he meets his when he meets his relative Okonkwo, who is Okonkwo, so he said he asked questions to his to the other people also. That do you know why? What is the difference between father and mother? Yes, the time when you will be brave. I'm saying it from the point of view of Africa. The time when you will be brave, when you will be energetic, you will be there in your fatherland. But the moment you have committed some crime, why only your mother tells you to come and join me? Your mother sacrifices for you. And Mabanta is the motherland of Okonko. Uchendu, the maternal uncle, tried to make Okonko understand, as well as the other people, that how important is the role of a female, the role of a mother, stating that mother is supreme. Okonkwo, he tried to tell Okonkwo that we used to worship the mother earth. She is also a female. You worship him, but it's not good to have a hatred feeling for the feminine quality. But but Okonkwo was not at all happy with his suggestions, and he was lamenting for the failures, and he was longing for his greatness to be achieved again. So, getting back to the next phase, during the second year of exile, he receives a visit from Obirika. I have told you earlier, Obirika is the friend of Okonko, who brought with him a sad news about the village of Abame, Abame. He says that a white man came in a bicycle. Actually, they say bicycle. They said that it was an iron horse, and people thought that this white man have come to destroy the clan as well as other clans. So what these villagers did, they killed the white man. And after a week later, a large group of white men came into the village, slaughtered it, and the village of Abane is now deserted. And Okonko and Obereka, they both thought that yes, this was something that was a mistake done by villagers, and for that they got punished. They should not have done it. They should not have killed the white people. So now they are facing a great danger. And while he works in Mabanta, the white man began to appear among neighboring clans. Why the white man came? Because they wanted other people of the clans to convert themselves into their religion. And Noy was very much captivated by the hymn he hears from the very first day. And he joins Christianity. And he got away from his father, who is outraged because he already have no feeling for his father. He already wanted to get away from his father, and he is very much fascinated by the Christianity. He went out. He went out of his father's house. And the Christian missionary, the people, the Britishers, wanted to rule the village. Actually, this was their plan. And they always come to the village, ask them to convert to their Christianity, saying that our God is merciful. Our God will help you. You don't have to fear to our God the way you fear to your God. And many people thought that is it true that they are saying, but there was one of the best example that the Christian missionaries set. The Britishers wanted to build a church, hospital, education, even school in the village. And they told them that it will be a great opportunity for the Africans to get educated, to learn the language English, and which will help Britishers to understand Africans' mind, to understand what actually they are planning to. So they wanted a land in the village, and villagers thought that it is good to give them a part of evil forest. Let me tell you, evil forest was the forest in which um, the bodies were thrown. Actually, the dead bodies of whom the person who have been not given proper burial, the people who actually died of diseases, died of skin diseases, they were thrown into the evil forest. People who committed suicide were thrown into the evil forest. The women who gave birth to twins were thrown into the evil forest. Actually, in Africa, there was a tradition, in Nigeria, probably, there was a tradition that uh, birth of twins will give a kind of bad omen to the family as well as village. So it is better to throw the twins to the village, leaving them to die. And thus, they think that this is an evil forest and the missionaries won't be able to survive in that forest. But when week passed, sorry, days passed, week passed, months passed, nothing happened to the missionaries and the people. In fact, they thought that it means their God, the Christian missionaries' God, are really very, very compassionate, and more conversion took place. And even um, thus, people thought, people most of the time, half of the village got converted into Christianity. And 7 years of exile for Okonkwo was completed, and then Okonkwo returns to Umuofia. When he returns to his land, he finds the village to be completely changed during his absence. Many men have renounced their titles, have converted to the Christianity, and many people even like the law that white men have built a prison, and they like these changes. But Okonkwo was not at all very much happy with the change because he always wanted to show his bravery, his manliness, his masculinity, and now boy, he people are just bow in front of the missionaries, the other Britishers, and this was really a kind of a shame that Okonkwo felt, and he was not a man who can bear this. So Mr. Brown, the white missionary, respects Igbo tradition, and he makes an effort. Mr. Brown makes an effort to learn about Igbo culture, IGBO, Igbo culture, and he even becomes friendly with some of the clan leaders. He also encourages Igbo people of all ages to get an education. But Mr. Browns even tells Okonkwo that Noe, your son, has also is also attending the college, and he is now having a name Isaac, ISSAC, the converted name. But Okonkwo was not at all happy. with these changes, and even with his son being converted to Christianity. And later on, after a certain period of time, Mr. Brown becomes ill and is forced to return to his homeland. And even Smith, James Smith, comes, takes his place, who was intolerant and is very strict. Now, coming to one of the things which is also a very important, that during a religious gathering, what had happened that these people of Umofia burned down the church. And soon after, the district commissioner asked the leaders of the clan, along with Okonkwo, to see him, and they arrest them. The people, the white people, arrested them and quickly seized. In prison, they were humiliated, they were beaten, and they were held until the clan pays a heavy fine. So this was a kind of unbearable torture for Okonkwo. Even their heads were shaved, which was a bad omen again for the people, the clan of Umofia. Later on, after being released, this men, the clan calls for the meeting to decide whether they will fight or try to live peacefully with the whites. But Okonkwo don't want any peaceful things to happen. Okonkwo wants war, and during the meeting, a court messenger came in order to say to break up their gatherings, and raised Okonkwo kills the court messenger. But the other court messenger escaped because the people, his fellow villagers, didn't seize the other court messenger. Okonkwo came to realize that people will not choose war. This act of resistance will not be followed by others. Embittered and grieving for the destruction of his people's independence and fearing the humiliation of dying under white law, Okonkwo hangs himself in a tree. And to the irony, Okonkwo never wanted to be like his father, Unoka. But at his last time, he again was treated as his father. The way Unoka was thrown to the evil forest, in the same way, Okonkwo too didn't deserve a burial, a proper burial, because Okonkwo committed suicide, and suicide is something that is again a omen for the village people, and so these people won't touch the body. And thus, the white people came, took the body, and hence they and hence and sorry, I'm sorry, people, and hence they took him to the and they threw the body to the evil forest, whatever. So now coming to this was the novel. We have reached the novel uh, climax, and now we'll read the structure of the novel. The structure of the novel has been divided into 25 chapters, and the novel has 25 chapters, and it is divided into three parts. Part 1 is the setting, is the ethnography, rise and fall of Okonkwo, from chapter 1 to 13, and chapter 2 was the plot, which shows the Okonkwo in exile and in background. Part 3 was the action, the white man in foreground. The things were taking place, but white man was in foreground. And this was from chapter 21 to chapter 25. Actually, when we'll go to read the novel of uh, Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart, each chapter, we can say that, chapters like 1 to 13 is complete in itself. 14 to 20 is complete in itself, and again 21 to 25 is complete in itself. You can read this without reading the other parts also, and that is complete story. The crucial parts are seen in chapter 7 and chapter 13. Chapter 7 was the killing of Ikmifuna, and chapter 7 was the exile period of Okonkwo when he committed the female crime and his exile of 7 years. Now, coming back to the themes of the novel, there are several themes of the novel, and by reading it, you will be able to understand. By going through this lecture, also, you will be able to understand that there will be so many themes, and you may also give your own theme. And I'll point out two to three themes. To First is memory or documentary. Digression is one of Achibe's main tools, and the novel is the story of a Congo's tragedy, but it is also a record of Igbo life, the tradition, and before the coming of white man. The novel documents what the white man destroyed. The reader learns much about Igbo customs and traditions. Depicting this world is a central part of the novel. Social disintegration was the another theme. Towards the end of the novel, we witness the events by which Igbo society begins to fall apart. Religion is threatened, Umofia loses its self determination, and the very centers of tribal life are threatened. These events are all the more painful for the reader because so much time have been spent in sympathetic description of Igbo life. The reader realizes that he has been learning about the way of life that no longer exists. Masculinity, femininity that can be seen. Tradition and change is also one of them. As we see, Okonkwo is a resistant person. He do not want any change. Masculinity coming, we have seen Okonkwo feeling he defines masculinity quite narrowly. From him, any kind of tenderness is a sign of weakness and effeminacy. Male power lies in authority and brutal force. So, coming again back to religion, the other theme, which is religion, which is the main arena where both culture differences and similarities play at the end of the novel. So, my dear friends, we have come to the end of this lecture, and let me tell you that Chinua Achebe has given his best. He's given all the setup of African society in his novel, stating that we really don't need any other civilization because we too have our tradition, we too have history, and no European can change that. Of course, he is embodying the changes. He even accepts the changes, but he's like he even says that change for betterment is acceptable. So thank you, people. This that is it for my lecture, and thank you for hearing. And any questions, please you may tell me. I'm here to answer you several questions. Whatever questions is on your mind. Yes, Momita, you are absolutely correct. We can call Okonkwo as a tragic hero. Just excuse me for a minute, please. Actually, the battery of my laptop is getting low, so let me excuse me for 1 minute. Uh, yeah, Hello, Momita have given you the answer. We can call Okonkwo as a tragic hero because we have seen him. We have seen his rise and fall. You must have read Macbeth. You must have read other tragedies of Shakespeare. The way a tragic hero has a tragic flaw. The same we have seen in Okonkwo even. He too have a tragic flaw and which led him to the destruction even. So we can obviously call Okonkwo a tragic hero. And Rupali Mishra, what is the main purpose of this novel? Rupali, the main purpose of this novel is that you cannot say that, according to Chinua Achebe, the novel is a showcase, is a forecast that this people that the to the Europeans, to the other civilized people, that we are actually we too Chinua Achebe has tried to show that we too have history, we too have civilization, and it is one of the I have said just before the lecture I have discussed about Heart of Darkness, how he was very much disheartened with the Heart of Darkness. So, okay. So yes, Rupali, really tell me that whether you understood the purpose of this novel. That this novel is written to forecast the theme, forecast the traditions of Africa, and it is a kind of answer to the Britishers, which says that Africa too stand in itself and too has an history. So, okay. And the other question is from Ali. Hello, Ali. So, does this novel critique indigenous African identity? I'll read the question for all the people. Ali sir has written, it's a query for our students. Does this novel critique indigenous African identity and implicitly advocate Christian missionary politics of assimilation and integration? Ajib himself got converted to Christianity. In the changing evolutionary myth of progression, as we see in the novel, Ikmifuna survives embracing Christianity, but Okonkwo can't afford to. What does the novel, especially its ending, ultimately advocate to and signify? Hello, thank you, Ali sir. I'll answer your question. Yes, we have seen Chinua Achebe. He too, his father too, have Christian. His parents were Christian, and he too was Christian. And he even went to the foreign land, the British colony, to study. And then after he returned, he wrote the novels, and so this question was asked that because he is not having any problem, we have seen him in the very beginning. He said that he is a person, Achebe is a person who is not at all stating that African cultures is really should be aparted with, and we should wholly accept Christian culture, the Britishers' cultures. The things that is good should be acceptable according to Achebe, and Christianity. He never says that Christianity was bad for or anything else. So he got converted to Christianity. When we say about Noe was Okonkwo's son. Ikmefuna was the so-called son, but he was killed by Ikmefuna was killed by Okonkwo. So he didn't survive till last. But Okonkwo is a man of extreme. He was a man who always wanted to understand to forecast his masculinity, to show his digression, and to keep himself away from feminine qualities. So Okonkwo was resistant towards the change, and he never wanted to change. And because of the mindset that he has, because of the background that he went through, because Okonkwo father, no, Okonkwo father Yunoka, he have seen his father's failure, his father debts, but he was determined that whatever happens, he won't be like his father. And so, from the very beginning, it was in his mind that whatever happens, I will be very, very brutal. I will not be affectionate. Uh, and thus, Okonkwo, Sandeep, I'll answer you. Let me answer Alisa. So, yes, so this was the thing. And Noy, yes, Noy has literally accepted the change because he was the one, a thoughtful person, and he even loved the changes and embraced the changes like his grandfather. So the novel ultimately advocate and signify the actually we have seen that novel has went through I have said in the very beginning that it is an oral narrative. Plots, subplots, everything is there. He Achibe does not get up into the story, the novel, and say anything. So we really find we see that the things fall apart is an to answer as well as teaching material for the Africans as well as to the world, stating that Africa has its history, Africa has its civilization, Africa, and here the colonialism have actually imparted and made a hole in the customs of these of the Umofia or Mabanta. So ultimately, we'll see that as a teacher, he teaches us that accept the tradition, accept the customs, not blindly, but wholeheartedly. And he has there are extreme level of significance of the novel. Significance itself lies in the title, in every parts of the chapters. So there are several significant, and thank you, sir, for this query. Now I'll get back to you, Sandeep. Okonkwo simultaneously emerges near the end of the novel as a heroic figure and as a villainous character. Yes, you're right. Actually, villainous character we cannot say. We can say is he had a tragic end. Never in wherever you'll read when you'll read line by line, you will come to know that never you will feel hatred for this man. You will come to realize that yes, it was very he was, I mean to say, Okonkwo was a man. He had that inside love, but actually the love was always has always been repressed, suppressed because of a thought that he never wanted to be like his father. no, Yunoka, because he thinks that he never wanted to have a feminine quality. We cannot say he is a villainous character. I won't agree to this. Um, okay, Amarjit Das. Okay, he is asking that is this novel success versus failure? Of course, it is a success versus failure. It is a change versus resistance, and there are several other aspects also because I have said that the novel has certain significance, and even it depends on you that how you take the significance out of this beautiful novel, beautiful piece. This novel was a success, success in showing on Okonko as a great man, man of titles, uh, man of good faith. Yes, but he even failed at the last. He even, the thing that was always his fear, he too came up with that. Amarjit, I hope that you understood success versus failure. It was, and I'm very happy that you people have asked such a beautiful questions. Any more questions, please? Yeah, yeah. Sandeep, yes, I'm. Okay. No one from Igbo community has touched Okonko's hanging body. What does the author mean by that? Oh, my dear Sandeep, actually, uh, I have told in the novel, and it was as said by Chinua Achebe, that Igbo society has certain their own tradition, as we too have in our Indian culture. So the traditions was like their rituals was that if the twins are born, they will be thrown to the evil forest. If anybody who is having skin disease will be thrown to the evil forest. Anybody who commits suicide, because committing suicide is not the man, not the God wants to take you from this world. You have committed sin by ending your life. And so this was against their custom to touch the body, and thus this was a kind of so they didn't touch the body. I hope Sandeep you must have got it. Uh, Das Mahapaja, I think so, has a question. The varying interpretation of masculinity quite clear. Okay, okay, Ria, thank you for it. Yes, Pragati, ma'am, thank you. Yeah, well, sure. We'll visit your college whenever this lockdown gets over. Okay, thank you so much. Should I end the live video? Please, if any questions is there, you can ask me, or else we'll end the live session. And I'm really very thankful to you all. It took a long time for me to give this lecture, but finally we were able to conduct this lecture. Um, any questions, viewers? Thank you, Tarun sir, and wish you same. Please stay safe and healthy. So, is there any question from your side, sir? Okay, thank you all for being in this session. Uh, Stay safe, stay healthy. Bye bye.